Welcome back, besties. Okay, so let's talk about what energy healing even is. Energy healing taps into the belief where our bodies are designed to vibrate with life, healing, and joy. But instead of placing our focus on the universe or in biggest energies, we're talking about tapping into the most purest divine energy source, God's love and healing power.
We believe in aligning our hearts and our spirits with God's truth. And that's not mystical, that's actually biblical.
Oh, baby, that's powerful. I feel that energy as soon as you said those words.
That is powerful. And that's why we're so excited, because our heart's desire is to heal one heart at a time and to educate people on how to do it in a way that exceeds any kind of expectation they've ever even imagined. So, what's our first journal that we've created together?
Heart 30, baby. And Heart 30 really came to us because we wanted to cultivate a ritual in our daily life, right? That we could remind to be able to tap in, tuned in, and turned on to our power source, which is God's energy. And when I say that, I always remind myself with some power signals, tapped into the spirit, tuned into the heart, and turned on to the mind, right? So Heart 30 is a 30-day devotional that you just spend 30 minutes for 30 days, really tapping into God's divine power. And I love it because there's 3 actionable steps. There's a Bible verse, an action step, and a prompt. And what this really does, Dante, and I would love to get your feedback on it, is it really cultivates some limiting beliefs in your life. When you read this, it reminds me of, wow, these are the focal points that I really need to tap into. And I need to really write this down on paper, some of my fears, some of the things I struggle with, and then those actionable steps are leading me to really figure out the opposite of the limiting belief, which is duality. What fears do I have? How can I conquer them with God's love, knowing my power and authority in Him, and be able to live life fearlessly in love?
I love that. And you know, I would like to, if it's okay, share a little bit about how we even came about creating this, the name, and just the concept.
Girl, get into it.
So, do you remember the day when we were in Barnes & Nobles?
Yes. How can I forget?
So, you know what? This is why Magnetic Besties is so powerful to me, because it's collaboration, right? It's taking and focusing on the highest good for all involved and magnetizing our thoughts together. So as we sat there and we were brainstorming, right? We oh my gosh.
Like a collective brain.
Collective brain, Magnetic Besties with Hello Kitty. What did you do? You brought Hello Kitty journals, because you know it's my favorite.
Yeah.
We're writing, we're journaling. And at first we talked about these challenges, but then we thought, man, that word challenge is challenging. What can we do to create and cultivate? Because we keep using the word cultivate. There's vocabulary that we're going to continuously use on every podcast and every journal, because these are words that are powerful, because what they do is they create a brand new life. Because when your thoughts change, your words change, and then your actions change, right? So we said, what can we do? So we started thinking of all these different ideas and topics and time frames, and we thought, well, what if we have people do things for a certain amount of days? What if we do certain measurable activities?
Right.
Things that we do. We like to go work out together. We like to ground in nature. We have our nervous system reset, and that's a whole other show we need to talk about. We have so many fun things that we like to do, and we wanted to see how we could implement and help people. So all of a sudden we thought, oh my gosh, 30 days of working on your heart.
Wow. And I think that's powerful too, because when you look at the heart, really that's the center of us, right? Without our heartbeat, what are we? We're just a flesh and bones that are not existing. And the heart is where those energies are stored, your innermost thoughts, your secrets, your fears, your challenges. And we tend to build a heart wall, as you know, in energy code and emotion code, around our heart. When we go through traumas, we go through pain, we go through suffering, we start to build, you know, you have that saying and people say, oh my gosh, that girl is ice cold, right? That's just an energy that people are putting up a front, right? They're putting up a wall because they have gone through things that have hurt them. And so to protect themselves, they're now building this wall around their heart where they're like completely ice cold and can't be touched. And so I love Heart 30 because it's hard work, but what it does, hard work makes the heart beat faster when you do it, right?
Oh my gosh, hard work, heart work.
Oh girl, hard work to get the heart to work. I love that. So if you want to work on your heart, this is for you. And I'm telling you too, because the more that you start to work on it, those daily actionable steps start to break down the barrier of your heart, peeling the layers away just like an onion. And before you knew it, your heart is transformed and it's brand new. And that's literally why it says on here, transform your heart and mind in 30 days. 30 days for 30 minutes. Even if you don't have the book, right? You can right now in your daily life with your morning activities, do something really simple. Spend 30 seconds every single day for 30 days. Just tapping in, tuning in, and turning on your mindset that's connected to your heart. And that energy is going to shift into a completely new reality. And you're going to start to see how the hard work is going to turn your heart into a better place. You know, one of my favorite things from the book, I would love to share with you, Dante, actually, is the renewal of the mind. Okay? You know we like that, girl. You gotta renew your mind every day.
That's me.
I
every
know.
Day,
like we're
day.
talking about when you get that intrusive thought. No, I have the power in my mind invested in me by the powers of God to change it around.
Yes.
And by doing that, I'm renewing my mind.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to share it with you.
Please.
This Bible verse says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:22. The focus is renewing your thoughts to align with God's will, right? And it talks about a prompt too. What negative thoughts or beliefs am I holding on to that no longer serve me? How can I renew my mind to reflect more of God's truths and his promises? And it says here too, which I love, it gives me something to do. Write down a negative or limiting belief you have about yourself. Replace it with a positive scripture-based affirmation and speak that affirmation aloud every time you notice that negative thought. So Dante, putting you on the spot here, what's something that you can work on and that you need to let go of that can help you? What's an affirmation that you can use and say aloud to yourself every time a negative intrusive thought comes into your brain?
Well, actually, that's one of my favorite verses. And you know what? When I was little growing up, a person down the street in my neighborhood had it as a mural on
Stop
their,
it.
I'm serious.
It's cute.
And it had fish, and it had one going against the flow, right?
Oh, wow.
And I always had that visual in my head.
Love that.
And to me, what's so powerful about that is that, especially today, the world we're living in, we want to conform to what God's plan is for us, but we don't want to conform to just anybody or the world. We're taught in school to conform, to sit down, to be quiet,
Right.
to be a good girl, to be a
Right.
good boy.
Right, wow, true.
And these are also ways to create limiting beliefs, because we also know that God created movement. God created
Flow.
flow, individuality. And this is shifting the mindset. And it's not about being a rebel in a negative or derogatory way. No. This is being a rebel, and like when you think of like the Jedi and the Force, you know, going against the opposition, right? Being a rebel against that.
Wow,
Because we're
wow.
rebelling against what keeps us down and restricts us, and that's the enemy.
Amen.
So when we transform our mind and renew it sometimes I have to do it all day.
I know, same.
I will start thinking, it happened to me today.
Explain.
I started thinking about eliminating a belief and a thought, and this is the beauty of doing this, and this is where consistency, and this is why having a journal, having accountability, having a magnetic bestie who is going to help you, because here's one of the main pieces to everything. It's accountability, but it's accountability with someone who has your highest good, who loves you and who is going to call you out, but do it in a way where the delivery is going to stick. It's easy. It's so easy to tell people about themselves. It's so easy to find the flaws in people. What the difference is in being a magnetic bestie is seeing that person, loving who they are, and wanting to elevate them, help them elevate.
Amen.
So with this Heart 30, we're working on our heart so that we can be that version for our friends.
Absolutely.
So that transformation. So today, I'm thinking these thoughts, they're intrusive. I'm in my truck driving. And you know what I said to myself? I can control these thoughts. I don't have to think this. I'm choosing. I'm making a decision right now to suffer, just like we talked about before. I'm suffering. I don't need to. I don't have to think this. You know what I'm going to do instead? I am going to put on praise and worship music, and I went to my Spotify. I put on an Elevation, I think,
Love it.
playlist.
Right.
And Hosanna came on.
Wow. Beautiful.
And I started thinking, oh my gosh, this feeds my spirit. And it completely transformed and renewed my mind. And those intrusive thoughts that I had before, they were irrelevant in the moment.
Wow.
That's why this is so powerful, because the more you do it, the easier it is.
What are different things that you think can build heart walls in people, right? Like when you everybody needs a little bit of renewing of the mind, and everybody has a little bit of some trauma that's happened to them that builds these walls of energy or walls in their mind that feel like limiting beliefs. And then you start thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not rich enough. And so what do you think people go through, or how do those things happen where you start to feel that way?
Okay, so I'd like to refer to something in the book, but let me start by saying, again, going back to, we are coupling scientific data with biblical truth.
Right.
And this is why I think, if I must say, we're completely innovators. Because I'm serious. Because it's amazing to me how God has, it's like these downloads I keep getting. And people, what's the verse about? People will perish without knowledge, right? And people need to understand the science behind the brain, behind emotions and how it works. So from ages 0 to 7, we already know we have different brain waves. And without getting all scientific, our brain waves are functioning in a brainwave pattern.
I think Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that. From 1 to 7, you are literally in a theta brainwave state.
Yes, Bruce
so
Lipton,
all that information that is around you is now integrating you, is really
rapid,
defining your identity and who you are as a person when you become 8 and up. Isn't that correct? Yeah.
Correct. And then throughout our life, every experience, we hold onto it on a cellular level,
right?
On a non-conscious. Now, how it impacts you, we could have the same situation,
right?
We could have been little girls playing, and you're over at my house, and we see an ice cream truck, and we get excited. And I run inside to my mommy and say, Mommy, I want ice cream. You run into your mommy, and your mommy says to you, no, you didn't eat your dinner. And my mommy says to me, no, because it's not good for you, right? And I could say, fine, I know that she doesn't like me to eat junk food, and not take it personally. You, on the other hand, felt you were a bad girl because you didn't eat your dinner. So you associated it differently.
Wow.
So every time you think of,
it's powerful.
Yes, I didn't eat my dinner, I'm not a good girl. Now that's silly. Your mom never said you weren't a good girl. Right. It was a consequence of a behavior, right? But this is what happens every day, all day. So again, it's retraining and transforming the mind. So what I love about this journal, again, is that these are measurable and actionable steps that you can take. And what we decided to do was to have a verse, number 1, to be the foundation and focus, right? So again, it's biblical. Number 2, we have a prompt. So like, what is it prompting you to do? And then an action step. Because a lot of times what happens? We listen, we learn.
One in ear, out the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the implementation doesn't happen.
Right.
So we have in our book everything written out for you very easily, and then the action step page for you to write and journal it. So for example, and now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And that's 1 Corinthians 13:13. So the focus is choosing love as the foundation for all action.
Oh, perfect.
And you know what?
That's hard too.
That is our focus. Our focus is love. Because when our focus is off of love, then everything is skewed. Everything is skewed.
Can you give an example of how, when you're presented in a situation where you might not feel like you can give love, how you can take a moment, be present, be tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to God's power, and be able to show love when you might not have wanted to?
Absolutely.
Well, everybody, we're out of time, but thanks for tuning in to your favorite show, Your Magnetic Besties. If you want to grab a copy of our Heart 30, check out the link below at the bottom of the screen.